Casey, we're back at Inlet Europe. Wandering around here the last couple of days, I keep hearing and seeing a lot about platforms.
Yeah.
What's going on?
It's definitely a theme of the conference here, and I'm sure we'll see more of it at DTech. But I think it speaks to a recognition of a lot of the vendors in our industry now of the requirements for data integration to really solve some of the large problems we need to solve in the industry require a broader perspective from a software. So bringing in a base layer where we can bring in all the relevant data and then create verticalization of different apps
On top.
Exactly, to solve for specific use cases, specific, dare I say, problems, but outcomes. Let's try. But I think it's becoming more of a recognition that we need to have a better integration of data at the base to then be able to solve for the specific use cases. And this is a new motion for the industry. And I think even more interesting will be, let's say, maybe the second or third generation of this, which is creating platforms across specific vendors, because that's where things like the VPAC Alliance and others are looking to create this sort of disaggregation, allow for even better integration of data. But for sure, we're seeing more and more within the vendor space, IBM included, creating broader base layers from a product perspective, which allow for then a broader perspective or utilization of data across vertical use cases.
Well, I suppose for the last couple of years we would have seen stuff in terms of, I have a new ADMS, or I have a new DR system, or I have a new e-vehicle charging. And to be quite honest, they were very siloed.
Bingo.
And then everybody was going, hang on a second, we need to join them all up.
Yep.
And joining stuff can be challenging.
Exactly.
Enterprise Service Bus, spring to mind, way back.
If we integrate within the package, or at least at the base of the package, at least the integrations happen. Then we can sort of move the data up for the use case, as opposed to everything being purely vertical and integrating at every data layer, which is
just
problematic.
to say the least, and expensive. In my world, like when we talk about the ultimate digital twin, one version of the truth.
Yep.
Getting that plumbing, that foundation with all the data in one place, that's your one version of the truth.
Yes.
How you drop apps and business logic on top of it, that's up to what your business case is.
Exactly.
Now, obviously, everything AI and GenAI is also a hot topic.
Yes.
Anything stands out for you, or are we seeing some, like, it's very easy around large language models for things like customer service. Large language models or small language models on-prem for things like real-time data, that's a bit more challenging, but where do you see it?
It continues to be a key topic of discussion with clients, with partners, within industry bodies. I think within the customer space, the majority of use cases I've seen driven in the last, let's say, 6 months, really are still focused on already public data, but exposing it in a more efficient or informed manner to the customer base of a utility. As an example, regulations that are already public, but for instance, there's so much construction happening in places like Dallas and other areas of booming construction. It is a difficult task for a developer or even a homeowner to go determine what are the regulations required, or even within a city regulatory framework, to expose those quickly to the customer base as well as internal users for it. This is one use case we've seen, an easy use case, that again, low stakes because the data is already public. What we're definitely interested in some other areas is moving from pure language models for chatbots to using language models, or the value or the capabilities within language models for things like time series, bigger, meatier, network-related or asset-related use cases that members of the IBM research team and our product team are looking to tackle as a sort of a next step for us.
Well, certainly when it comes to the managing the grid, the SCADA systems, for want of a better word, I see a lot of people going that this is the next nut to crack. Now, but if I may, I don't care how good your language model is, you still need the data.
Yes. And
you also need a business case.
Yes.
Otherwise you have this, I'll do a pilot, but it doesn't go anywhere in a hurry.
Yeah, like a science experiment. Again, feedback from a lot of clients we're seeing from it. So we're sort of, fully a year into this exuberance around GenAI, and I think that boards and especially senior leadership in C-suite are saying, okay, we've maybe made a couple POCs, we've built a chatbot or two, but how do we start to look at fundamentally changing a key utility process with the application of this technology? And that is a very different approach to starting with an individual utilization of the technology within one use case as opposed to looking at a more discrete, broader use case and determining how you inject that technology into it to then have a fundamentally differentiated outcome. I'll give you an example within the asset space we're seeing as a beginning of this, is if we want to move toward predictive analytics for assets, which of course with the Maximo portfolio is something we focus on working with hundreds of utilities to drive that outcome. The first key requirement is understanding why something has had an issue or has broken. And when we go look at the data quality of problem identification of field assets, it is a fundamental problem, I think, ubiquitous in the industry. People have driven to try, let's give all of our users a drop-down. If you give that drop-down with 20 reasons why something has a problem, then you add other invariably is 80% of the problem. And we can't drive toward predictive if we don't know why things are failing. So being able to then use GenAI potentially to mine the natural language of either a voice note or hastily scribbled notes. I mean, when you think about a storm and you have rectification, people are not writing great notes, they're just trying to rebuild the grid.
Trying to get it fixed.
But you need that data to be able to then, so it's starting with the basic data, but then of course we can move through the asset process and drive the really high value, which is, how do we get to at least condition-based, or God forbid, predictive, which is huge value for a utility, right? And so this is where I think there's now becoming a new expectation of GenAI models and other things, LLMs included, to say, that is a really high value use case. It's not just a chatbot on our webpage, but it requires a very different approach to understanding the quality of the data, or can we even solve a data quality problem using those models, which then has an incredible value as an upstream.
Now the other thing I see, and I take a lot of optimism from, is that by deploying whatever technology, whether it's GenAI, robots, drones, whatever, it's about this autonomous, making things autonomous and automation, for want of a better word. Because we can't keep reprogramming the GenAI models, we can't keep doing things for one-off. It's because the biggest challenge I see here in Europe and a lot worldwide is, where do you get all the skilled workers? So I think automation and how this plays into, how do you automate how you do stuff?
Well, and I think that's a key point is, and I'm spending more time now with the public sector as well in some areas, and there's always a concern about maintaining jobs, et cetera, but there are so many mundane tasks or low value tasks in so many processes that we have within utilities. It's not, and you can use these technologies to automate the parts that are actually very low value and allow our teams to focus on the part where they can bring their intellect and their experience to the actual problem that should be solved. And so, to your point, as you look at a broader workflow or process within a utility, it could be customer related, it could be asset related, it could be network automation or network operations. Where are those pieces where by injecting technology in that process, we can speed the outcome and allow those skilled workers to focus their time on the bit that they really need to be focused on. Things like in the States, like solving the problem we have with the interconnect queue. We have way too many requests and we need to be moving. So what could we automate within that process to at least allow for the 20% that is the really hard bit to solve, to let our teams work on that bit and automate the other bit either up front or behind that. So these are the sort of problems that we're working on opportunities, let's say, we're working with clients to try to apply this technology differently than we have.
Now, with all that's going on,
you're always working on something new. But what's next?
So I mean, something we're very excited about, and will be released. I believe we've already released a white paper. If not, it'll be soon. We've built a working group, first within the States and now within the Europe region, with the IBM research team on. Our aspiration is to build an AI foundation model for the grid. Now, what does that mean? We're kind of working that out, but we've had now a couple sessions with this consortium on what are the big, hairy problems that our utilities are being asked to solve or are anticipating we need to do better at solving. And how could we bring data to bear to build a foundation model that would allow, you can call it digital twin or other, a new way to provide simulation and or potential testing and modeling that would help speed the process to solve those problems. And this is of course leveraging some research assets we have, and then now the question becomes, we need data to build the model, to then go and test the model, and if it works, then we can sort of get that snowball effect. So it's something we're very excited about, and have many partners across policy, regulatory bodies, as well as utilities and vendors that we're working together to try to drive that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, Distributech 2025, still a couple of months away, but it won't be long rocking around in
it's
March.
coming quickly.
What are you expecting there? Anything? We've seen
I
all
mean,
the stuff.
I think for sure the AI topic will continue to be a focus with the industry. I think again though, across the vendor base and the consulting companies that we have both in our portfolio, it's really moving towards that greater business value, understanding the business case. How do we look at the technology, making a differentiated outcome, and then injection of AI into product suites. That because I think a lot of utilities are looking at do I need to build this capability or inject the capability into processes, or will I be able to inherit some of it from my vendors, and then how does that create a new value chain of AI models within it, et cetera, right? So I think we'll see more of that. And then for us, we've just recently announced the acquisition of Precinto, which is a really exciting acquisition for us, adding renewable-focused asset capabilities to our asset suite. We feel very strongly, of course, about the differentiated capabilities of the Maximo portfolio and what we do with our partners around enterprise asset management, but we recognize, of course, that the increase of asset base around renewables is a key focus area that will be only growing exponentially in the next decade. So we brought that capability in, and we're more announcements to come there, but we're very excited about it.
Right. Never a dull moment in the energy business.
Never.
Hey, good stuff. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see you at Distributech.
Absolutely. Good to see you, bud.
Cheers, man.
Yeah.